Welcome to the Doing Life Together podcast. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Owen.
I'm Eli.
And I'm Evan.
So today we're going to discuss how to live life more intentionally so that you can increase your confidence that you're moving in the direction through life that you really want to. And the way we're going to get there is we are thinking this is probably going to be 2 episodes. So there'll be a break point at some point, thing that speaks to or breaks your heart, looking at your design and saying, how can I use my design to positively impact the thing that speaks to my heart in an ever increasing way? Let me say that again. So to really feel successful in life, you need to figure out how can you positively impact the thing that speaks to your heart in an ever increasing way. So that is just super important. And I think something I want to point out is that this doesn't necessarily have to be your profession. You don't have to be someone who wakes up every day, goes to work, does a job where you're positively impacting the thing. I think that is another way people can get it wrong. But what you don't want is a job that prevents you from having the time and resources to positively impact that thing, right? So I think that's worth calling out. So good results are ones that you achieve that positively impact the thing that takes. Great results are the things that enable you to measure how well you're positively impacting the thing that speaks to your heart. I just want to point out that what I'm not saying is that you should live a life of poverty where you have nothing. I'm not saying that. You don't have to do that. You can make a good living and still make a lot of positive impact. It's just you have to be working to make the world better than just for yourself, or you'll never be satisfied with the results you get. So a lot of people ask, well, what's the exact percentage? What exactly do I need to give? And it's like, there is no exact percentage. Each person is slightly different. But what I can tell you is it's a percentage higher than 0, and that you'll never know what that percentage is until you start trying, until you start giving, until you start trying to positively impact the thing. It's just, you're never going to get there because you'll just stay stuck at 0. It's another example of just get moving, people. So let's go back to my personal example, right? So I talked about how the thing that spoke to my heart was, somebody remind me.
Kids and struggling kids.
Yeah, kids that were in bad situations. Owen, Eli's quick to the draw today. I like it.
Yep.
He's been practicing. All right.
I always wait and then nobody says anything and then I say it.
I know. They're trying really hard, buddy. All right.
Wait just enough to be able to think in time.
Let's get back to my example. So I said the thing that spoke to my heart was that kids who are disadvantaged. And so my career has in no way, shape, or form been dedicated to helping that. I've spent a lot of time in the corporate world, but I've been able to use those resources to positively impact that thing. So as a family, we sponsor kids in other countries, right? These are not humble brags. These are just examples. So please don't misunderstand here. So we've been able to sponsor kids. I host this breakfast called All Pro Dad. So once a month at local schools, we get together and eat breakfast with dads, positive adult role models and their kids, right? I coach sports. I made sure that my job never interfered with my ability to invest in my time in the lives of other people. My wife and I still can't wait to get her on this podcast. We spend time engaging with other parents to talk about how to be great parents, not because we're perfect, just because we got a lot of experience. And then I write content that's aimed at helping people, live their best life. So I do all of that without having to give up my day job. And all of that is aimed at positively impacting the thing that speaks to my heart. And I'll say this, as my career has progressed, we went from sponsoring like one family or sponsoring one child to sponsoring more than one. Once I got the first All Pro Dad off the ground, I said, hey, maybe others would benefit. And we grew and we did more. So you start somewhere, and then you keep growing, you keep pushing. I got to a point where there were enough schools that had these breakfasts that I was like, I can't handle anymore. I just had to be like, no, that is enough. But I would have never known where enough was if I didn't get started. So that's the encouragement here. When you're thinking about positively impacting the thing that speaks to your heart, just get started. Start small. Start with something. And change your mindset. And instead of saying, I'll start positively impacting the thing, I'll start having results that matter once this thing happens, change that mindset. So instead of going, once this happens, I'll start, change it to, I'm going to start now because fill in the blank. I'm going to start now because by starting now, I can positively impact one person. I'm going to start now because by starting now, I'm going to finally be achieving some results that actually matter to me. So just start somewhere. And then does anyone have any questions about this idea of just starting, doing stuff, going after achieving results?
So I just want to ask again. You're saying that the only way to figure out your limits or when to say no is by like trial and error, basically, and doing things and then figuring out, okay, this isn't for me. So next time somebody asks me to do this, I shouldn't agree to it because I'm not going to be as helpful as somebody else. Or is that basically what you were saying?
Yeah, dude, absolutely. You guys know, how many times have I told the story about how I never want to be a camp counselor again?
Right. Yeah, but every summer, the family's like, oh, Dad, we're going to go spend a week at camp watching other people's kids. And I'm like, oh, I look forward to seeing you when you get back from that week of summer camp. But the only reason I know to say that, right, is because one time I went to summer camp. Yeah. And I didn't have a great time. And I said, oh, my gifting has nothing to do with helping these kids at camp. Another great example is like, one of the journeys our family was on is I thought that my career I was supposed to give up my career to go get into vocational ministry. And I got really far down that line before I was like, oh no, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. Right. But had I not started down that journey, I never would have confidently gotten to the no that made me feel good about saying no. I would have been like, well, maybe I should have. I just don't know. And I would have dealt with that type of anxiety. So absolutely, Owen. Sometimes moving down the path, you're going to get to no's, and that's okay because you're trying to achieve those results. You're trying to positively impact that thing that speaks to your heart. You're growing, you're learning more about yourself, and you're getting closer to really nailing it. All right. Great question. All right. We're going to wrap up results section now. You will never feel a sense of contentment if you are not achieving meaningful results. And by golly, you got to define meaningful results for yourself. If you let somebody else define the results you want, it's not going to work. You're not going to feel content and happy and joy-filled if you're going after appetites. If your version of results, all of them are around feeding appetites, it's never going to work out the way that you'd hope. And then if all of your results are aimed at helping yourself or making your own life better or getting more comfortable, it's just not going to, you're never, and I could say this with just tons of passion, you're never going to achieve the happiness you want if that's what you're going after. It's just not going to happen. You have to achieve some results that positively impact the life of others, or it's just not gonna work out for you the way you hoped. You guys got any other questions?
No.
All right, we're gonna go into part 3, the third, the C. The C stands for what, Owen? What's the C stand for?
Community.
Nice, well done. Do you want to go first on defining what communities are?
It's basically just the people you surround yourself with.
Nice. I love that. Very simple definition. If you want simple definitions.
Technically, I can give you the scientific definition.
Oh, we'd love a scientific definition. Eli, what's the scientific definition of community?
So you got species, right? Species is just an organism Then next up, you got population. Population is a group of these species. And then a group of these populations is a community. So that's the scientific definition. Not that it fits ours too well, but
I really appreciate that you know so much stuff.
yeah, I know you do.
I know. Someday you'd be really good on Jeopardy. All right. Here's the definition of communities we're going to use. Communities are the groups of people you interact with regularly, either for a season of life or for a lifetime. So when we talk about communities in our purpose of wanting to lead a successful, fulfilled life, I tell people there are 3 groups of communities that you want to focus in on. The first group of community is these are the people who you look to add benefit to their life. So if we were a business, I'd say these are your customers. So this is the group of people that in order for you to positively impact the thing, you have to interact with, right? So if I want to positively impact the lives of young children and help them get a better start at life, I have to interact with children. If I don't interact with children, I can't possibly be working to help make their lives better. So that's that first community. These are the people that you're out there trying to help. You're interacting with almost solely for the purpose of making their life better. The second group of people are the people who are pouring into you. These are the people that are investing in you. So these would be like your mentors. These would be your wise counselors. These would be the really smart people in your life, coaches, people like that. And the reason this is important is you're a big fan of continuously learning, of always be learning, of always growing and getting better. And so you need this second group of people so that you can learn. I certainly don't know everything. I've never met anyone who knows everything. I've never met anyone who wouldn't benefit from the help of others. And so your community of 2, your second group, the second community you want involved with are those people who can help you become a better version of yourself. And the third group is the one that most of us think of. It's that mutually beneficial group. So these are the people that you're in relationships all the time. It's totally mutually beneficial. Sometimes it's overstated that you're going to work harder to help the other person succeed. Sometimes the other person is going to be helping you succeed. Oftentimes you're working to succeed together. That's the third type of community. So when I talk about communities, that's what we're really talking about. So that's the C in Arch Impacts is those communities. And I'm going to ask, I'm going to save your cute. Next time I go to questions, Owen, it's going to be your one on. Does everyone in the community have the same goals? Okay. All right. So I want to talk about this third group of people in your community because it's super important. Those people you have that closest relationships with. So Harvard University, if you've heard of Harvard University, they've got this longitudinal study. It just basically means a study that's been going on for a really long time. And huge fan of that. The last Surgeon General of the United States had a similar opinion of the one I'm about to share. And it's basically healthy relationships are the greatest indicator of long-term happiness and health more than anything else. So the quality of your closest relationships is a bigger indicator of your health than anything else. And that's just amazing to think because so many of us neglect. As we're achieving those appetite results, for a lot of people, the thing that ends up being neglected are their relationships. And so that's just a bad idea. So loneliness is actually worse for your health than smoking. So people who are lonely lose more years off their life than people who smoke like regularly. It's insane. It's not even close. So healthy relationships really, really matter. So as we talk about relationships, anyone have any questions about relationships?
Yeah.
How important would you say it is to be rooted in a community that has the same life goals as you and is looking for the same things out of life as you are?
I appreciate that question, Owen. I think it's two parts, right? So, you want to have some people in your life who have a shared source of truth, who have a shared understanding of what's important to you, who are willing to have those conversations we talked about earlier that Eli brought up about who can you trust. So you do want to have some people in your life that you have that shared understanding with, who have shared goals, who have shared, beliefs and whatnot, because that you're going to need that as you face new experiences, as you evaluate new information. You're going to need people who can support you through that evaluation phase. But I also think it's really important to have people who have different views, right? Otherwise, you get into that echo chamber, that groupthink, that bias, and it's everything. You never grow. So I think it's both, right? Like, I think it's super important to have people in your life that you share a lot with, but also those that you can learn from, grow from, and be challenged by. And those are rarely people who have the exact same value system as you have.
Okay. Awesome.
Thanks. And then, so how do you have healthy relationships? So there's a model for this too. I know we're going through a lot of models. I'll go fast, but this model I call it the genuine relationships model. Genuine is Eli, what's the technical term for a word where the first letter means something?
Sorry. What were we saying?
I'm trying to use your knowledge. When genuine stands for, when every letter stands for a word, what's that?
Isn't that an acronym?
It's an acronym. Thank you, Captain Acronym. So this genuine is an acronym. So if you want to have healthy relationships, you need to be generous. You need to be empathetic. You need to be nice. I know that's an obvious one, but you need to be nice. You need to be unafraid. You need to have integrity, which gets back to that authenticity, knowing what your truth is. You need to be non-judgmental, and then you need to be engaged. So you need to be engaged in the people you're around. And so that's basically the 6 relational mindsets that it really takes to have incredibly healthy relationships. You need to be willing to give and receive gifts. That's what that generosity is. You need to be able to empathize, so ask good questions, put yourself in the shoes of others, but then also be willing to be unafraid. So challenge people when they say stupid stuff. Be willing to put yourself out there, right? Relationships are hard. That's the unafraid piece. You want to have integrity, so make sure that your truth, you live to that. You are who you claim to be. Non-judgmental. So life is hard. I heard something the other day. It went something like, there are no abnormal reactions. There are just normal reactions to abnormal situations. And that was this idea that when you interact with somebody and they do something, you're like, what the heck was that? Well, that doesn't make any sense. That reaction is completely natural to them based upon the life that they've lived, which is why it's so important to be non-judgmental and then engaged. People want to be paid attention to when you're with them, right? Like you guys, we have rules in the house about no phones at the dinner table. And yes, it's awkward sometimes that we have to sit there and talk to each other, but it's really important. So that's what healthy relationships are all about, genuine relationships. And we've got all these information on the website, in the podcast notes and whatnot. So that's what healthy relationships look like. So let me go back to my example. So the thing that spoke to my heart was relationships. It was kids who are in bad situations. It was helping them get better. In order to achieve that, I have to be in communities, right? I mentioned that if I want to help kids and family and people in relationships, I got to go out and be with people who need help, who want help, who are seeking help. But I don't know everything. I'm going to encounter situations where I'm like, I'm not sure exactly what it is I'm supposed to do here. And that's why I got to have that second group of people, the community of people who are going to pour into me, that I can go to and ask questions and get advice and direct people to when I don't know. And then the third group is my own personal relationships. If I don't take care of my own personal relationships, I got no business providing advice to other people how to consider, being in relationship themselves. If I neglected my own family, the people closest to me, it would be really, really, I'd be a hypocrite. Not all about being a hypocrite. So that's the view on relationships. And so because I have those relationships in those three categories, I've been able to positively impact some lives. I hope. You very rarely find out that you do, but I think that's at least I'm striving after that. And so when it comes to achieving results in community, I feel pretty good. You guys got any questions on the community piece?
I don't.
All right. Last piece, and then we'll wrap up. All right. Final piece of the equation is habits. Habits, we're going to call habits the processes, boundaries, or hacks that enable you to leverage your design to achieve the results that matter to you in a sustainable way. Habits are typically where people start. So when I encounter people who are feeling bad about their achievements, it's typically because they haven't figured out their design. So they're trying to use habits that don't fit with their design, or they haven't figured out the results that matter most to them. So they're doing really good at the habits, but the habits are just leading them to do more of the bad behaviors or achieve more of the thing they don't really want to achieve. And so I say habits are at the end. That's why an arch, habits is the last thing. So if you know your authentic self, you know how you're designed, what matters to you, you know the results that you want to get into and achieve, and you got a good set of communities around you, then you can worry about habits. Then you can worry about building a sustainable set of behaviors after the fact. So that's why I always put habits last, because it's all about helping you achieve more of the most important things. So if you put in a habit, you're going to achieve. I don't like that. So one of the things I worry about with habits is that if you start them too early, you're going to get really good at doing the wrong things. You're going to get really, really good at the wrong behaviors, or the habit's not going to work and you're going to feel, terrible about yourself. And when you feel terrible about yourself, it's just not really a good way to go. So the example I could give is like, if you don't have anything worth saying, don't spend a lot of time getting really good at communicating, right? If you are bad at managing your time, don't get really good at managing your time around bad priorities, right? So you got to get all the other stuff right before you work on figuring out the habits that are going to work best for you. And that's kind of the advice I give people around habits. Owen, you want to ask a question about why is it hard for habits? All right. Questions on habits.
Sorry, which one?
You had one about why is it hard to something?
Oh, why is finding successful habits so hard?
Yes, that's one. All right, guys. That's my take on habits. So if you go after finding the right habits too soon, it's just not going to be helpful, because you're going to do more of the wrong things or do more of things that aren't really helpful to you. So it's really important to figure out your design first, figure out your purpose first, figure out what results you want, and then worry about habits. So what are your questions or thoughts on habits, guys?
Yeah. Why is finding successful habits so hard?
Yeah, I mean, I think once again, I appreciate the question, buddy. It's really about that idea that comparison steals the joy of habits, right? So most people first hear about habits because somebody else talked about it. Like, oh, I do this thing. It's amazing. I get up at 4:30 every morning and take a cold plunge in the minus 32 degree water, and it's awesome. And then the person's like, oh, that person seems really excited about that habit. So I should wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I should take a cold plunge. And then you just start doing things because somebody else's excitement has got you all fired up about it. And then when you don't like it, like when you feel like, oh, waking up at 4:30 in the morning sucks. I don't like to do this. Or, ooh, cold plunge, not really my thing. And it's not really giving me a benefit. The person starts to feel like, I must be a failure. I must be a loser because this isn't working. Look, that person over there is really happy with this habit. And what's wrong with me? So I think that's why finding the right habits is so hard, because habits almost always start, we first find out about them from somebody else. And so we just start randomly applying them instead of really being intentional about what am I hoping to achieve by using this habit? Does this habit fit with my design? Like, I'm a morning person, so I get up and I do stuff in the morning. Owen, let's be honest now. If I said, Owen, I want you to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do some stuff, what are you going to say to me?
You're crazy.
Yeah, right? Because it's just not reasonable, because it's not your stage of life. It's just not where you're at, right? And so if I said, Owen, in order to be successful, you got to get up at 5 in the morning, and you can't get up at 5 in the morning, how are you going to feel?
Miserable.
Yeah. You're either miserable because you're trying to get up at 5 in the morning, or you're miserable because you're like, I must be a failure because I can't get up at 5 in the morning. And neither one of those is true. The truth is, the getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning habit isn't meant for Owen, right? And consequently, if you said, Dad, I think you should stay up to midnight because I do my best thinking at midnight, I'd be like, Owen, there is a 0% chance I'm going to stay up to midnight. I can't think at midnight. I don't want to think at midnight. And then I'm going to be like, well, I must not be doing so great because I don't want to be up at midnight. And I think but that's the way a lot of people approach habits, is they're just like, oh, it works for that person, so I'm going to try it. And when it doesn't work for me, they're like, I must be a failure. But that's not accurate. So that's why habits have to come last. They just absolutely have to. Now, I think it's fair, Owen, you asked a question before we got started about, is that really true, Dad? You're like, aren't there just universal habits that are good for everybody? Remember that question? And I would say there are certainly categories of habits that should apply to everybody. Like, be healthy. Habits that help you be healthy, yes, those are probably a really good idea, right? So get sleep would be a great healthy habit. Exercise, good healthy habit. Eat well. Don't drink or smoke to excess. These are all healthy habits, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how you apply that, like if I said, Eli, I'm going to pick on Eli for a minute.
All right.
If I said, Eli, I didn't say exercise was important for your health. I said, Eli, in order to be healthy, you must run 4 miles every day. What would you say?
I guess I'm not going to be healthy then.
Right. Because you don't like to run. But if I said, Evan, in order to be healthy, you have to run 4 miles a day, how are you going to react?
I'd just run.
Yeah, because you don't hate running. So that's not really a good habit. So saying you need to be healthier, and in order to be healthy, you got to get exercise. That's that kind of thing, Owen. That's what I would say. Are there habits that are good for everyone? There are categories of habits that are good for everyone. Being healthy, category habit that's good for everyone. Engaging in some kind of learning, good habit for everyone. Having healthy relationships, good habit for everyone. But to be very specific on what those habits look like, the how is where I would say you got to draw the line. And the how of the habit is all about your design and whatnot. All right. So that is it. So we hit all 4. We talked about
work with your finger.
You're unmuted.
these clowns. It's like amateur hour.
Sorry, Dad.
It's all right.
I'm
All right.
fascinated.
Fascinated with what?
The touchpad on the Chromebook.
I don't know what to do with that. All right. So we covered a lot there. It's time for the big close. But before we get to the close, you guys got any other questions about habits? Can I ask you? I'm going to
Yeah,
ask you
Dad.
guys a question.
I got a question.
All right. Eli's got a question about habits.
I know you love this fact, so I'll just give you a segue into saying it. How many times do you have to do something before it becomes a habit?
21 times.
Oh, cool.
I appreciate you making fun of me on the podcast. That's really great. No, but that's true. Like repetition, experience, trying things. You got to do them more than once. It's not going to be comfortable. There's a great book. It's on my bookshelf here somewhere called Atomic Habits. It's a really solid book. It talks about this thing called habit stacking, where you take a current habit that you have, you add a new habit to it so that you just kind of, when you do this, you add this new habit and then the new habit becomes a habit. It's a really good book. But yeah. Any other questions about habits? All right. I'm going to ask you guys a question.
All right.
Evan, what is
Yeah.
what is a habit that you have that you think has been most helpful to you?
Probably like just working out more, going to the gym. It's helped a
Okay.
lot with baseball.
All right, good. So that is a overall help habit, right? That's that category habit, being healthier. You said something
Yeah.
specifically that you do is work out. Can you define what working out looks like for you?
Well, I usually just go downstairs to the weight set and I do bench press, squats, all those kind of movements, hang cleans, stuff like that.
So your habit is to work out physically lifting weights.
Yeah.
Is there a time of day that you usually find is best for you to do this working out?
Not that's best, but usually I just do it either right when I get home from school or like late at night because that's when I have time.
Perfect. All right, Eli, what about you? What's a habit that's been really helpful for you? You need a minute to think.
Yeah, let me think.
All right. Owen, what's a habit that's been really helpful for you?
I would say probably getting back into the habit of praying before I go to bed every night. Just as a Christian, it make sure I get time with God each day. If I just like have a specific time to do it, then like I'll pray throughout the day, like if something comes up or something's on my mind, but just having that set time helps me to keep that relationship.
Nice. And if you tried to pray first thing in the morning, it probably wouldn't feel as natural, right? You built this new habit.
Probably not. Yeah.
Nice. So I'll piggyback on that one because my prayer time is in the morning, right? That's when I'm at my best. So the first thing I do. But so there for us, the category habit is prayer or spending time in spiritual things. For Owen, the specific application of that is he does it at night. For me, the application is I like to do it in the morning, first thing. So that's how we can differentiate between the habits. All right, Eli, what about you, buddy?
I'd say I got a pretty good habit of studying when I need to. So I don't do it too frequently, but usually the night before a big test, I got a pretty good habit of actually doing my studying.
Nice. You tend to write things down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So your habit, the big category is learning. Your little habit is that you study the night before because it works for you. And you study by writing things down.
Yeah.
But if at any point in time we were to say, all right, the key to studying is to wait till the night before and write things down, that wouldn't necessarily work for everybody, right?
Yeah.
In fact, we probably have people on this call who've tried that practice and it didn't go very well. We're not going to name anybody, but if you're checking this out on YouTube, you can see the smirks. All right, awesome. So that's habits. So that's the 4 things. Let's close it out. So we covered a lot. We went through it very, very, very intentionally. If you watch this on YouTube, I spent a lot of time looking at notes because I could talk for literally hours about this. And I wanted to be succinct and make sure I covered all the highlights. So there's a lot here. This has just been an overview. We could definitely have gone much deeper on each of these things. But when we talk about living a life well and achieving your best results, right? It's really centered along those 4 big concepts. So what is your authenticity? Like, I know that word has a lot of different meanings these days or applied a lot of different ways, but it's really about when we say authenticity, it's becoming the kind of person that has a source of truth that they know. So what is that source of truth? What are the truths I hold dear? And then how can I filter my life experiences so that through that source of truth? It's then about your design on how you get things done and what you're good at. And that is that SMORE profile. So strengths, what are the things you're good at? Motivations, opportunities. So what are those things you're just not very good at? You need to be aware of that. How do you like to be rewarded or recognized? How do you gain or lose energy? And then how do you show up emotionally? Those are all very important things. So you understand, what is your source of truth? How are you designed? And then what is it, your purpose? What is that thing that speaks to your heart that you want to help positively impact, which gets into the R, the results. So what are the things you're going after? What are the things that you can measure and observe and do and achieve so that as a human being who's designed to achieve things, you can achieve things? We talked about how achievements are really meant to be not focused on yourself too much, not focused on appetites like money or fame or prestige or bigger job, bigger car, bigger house, because appetites are never actually filled. They just keep growing. And instead, you should be focused on positively impacting the thing that speaks to your heart. Then we talked about how you have to be in community to do that. So you got to have people you got to have a type of community that you're helping. You got to have a type of community that is pouring into you, helping you. Then you got to have a community of people that is closest to you that you're doing life together with, and how healthy relationships are the biggest indicator of long-term health, happiness, and success. And then we talked about once you have those 3 things figured out, then you can start figuring out what are the habits that you're going to use to live your best life. How are you going to live it in a sustainable way? And the reason that sustainability matters is that when you get really excited every day about getting up and going about your life, you're going to get tired. You're going to stretch your limits. And so you have to have habits so you can achieve more, stay energized, stay focused, stay on top of things. And that's why habits become really, really important. All right. That's what I wrote down as my key takeaways. Did you guys have anything you wanted to add to close?
Not really.
Oh, you got to give us something.
Am I supposed to ask my 3rd question?
What's your 3rd question?
The one about if your thing is going to be the same throughout your whole life or if it can change.
Perfect. That's a great time to ask a question. All right. That's all we got. Anybody have anything else? Eli, bro.
Sorry, Dad.
All right. That's what we got.
So I asked that right now.
All right. That's all we got.
I'm done.
All right. That's all we got. That's the wrap up. Anyone have anything before we get out of here? Closing thoughts or comments?
Yeah, one thing I was actually wondering is once you find out your thing that impacts your heart, is that going to stay the same throughout your whole life, or is that something that's able to be changed?
I think that's awesome. I definitely think it can be changed, right? I think that as you experience more life, you're going to evolve and change. And that's totally fine. Like, I don't ever want you as my sons or people listening to this to think that you got to find one thing and just wait to find that one thing. You just got to start pursuing it, right? So if you get a little nudge, start moving towards the nudge, right? So I talked about how growing up, my parents were divorced, and so I started thinking about kids and how can I help them not experience some of the same negativity I did. But then it grew into, your mom and I, we got married and we started to figure out, there's some things that we can do in our marriage that are applicable to other people. So we started talking to other people about marriage. And then leadership, right? I've been a leader a while. I really enjoy leadership. And I started figuring out I like to help other people be leaders. And so I evolved and said, hey, it's not just about the kids. It's really about healthy relationships overall. How do I help people have healthier relationships? And so it evolved. I thought it was just about helping kids not be in bad situations. And it grew as the more I learned and the more life I experienced, it changed and evolved. And I think that's okay. Is that helpful, man?
Yeah.
All right, dudes. I think that's it. All right. Until next time, please, if you enjoyed what you heard, share it with a friend. Subscribe to the button, like and subscribe to this podcast wherever you find podcasts. We're on all the major platforms. We're also on YouTube. On the podcast platforms, it's Doing Life Together Podcast. On YouTube, it's Doing Life Together Podcast, or you can find it at Arch Impact Studios. Check us out online, doinglifepodcast.com or archimpacts.com. And we just really appreciate you. Until next time, where we are going to answer 5 questions that the boys are going to come up with. What are 5 questions that you have that you wish you knew the answer to? And that's what we're going to cover next time. All right. Over.